সুধী দর্শক, শুভ অপরাহ্ন। আসসালামু আলাইকুম সবাইকে। আপনাদের সামনে আমি আছি ফারুক আহমেদ মুন্না, বহুমাত্রিকের 20তম পর্ব নিয়ে। এবং আজকে আপনারা জানেন এটা নির্বাচনী মাস, নির্বাচনী সময়। আমরা জেমস গার্ডনার, যিনি রিপাবলিকান পার্টির কিংবা বলা যায় কনজারভেটিভ পার্টির নমিনেশন নিয়ে এসছেন মেয়র প্রার্থী হিসেবে, তার ইন্টারভিউ নিতে যাচ্ছি। তো দর্শক, আপনারা বাফেলোতে যারা আছেন এবং বাফেলোর বাইরে যারা আছেন, তাদের প্রত্যেককেই আমি জানাচ্ছি আন্তরিক শুভেচ্ছা, অভিনন্দন, এবং আশা করছি আপনারা ভালো আছেন, সুস্থ আছেন এবং ডিটিভি আয়োজিত আমাদের এই বহুমাত্রিক অনুষ্ঠানটি দেখছেন। গুড আফটারনুন ভিউয়ার্স, and welcome to a new episode of talk show, our regular talk show, Bahumatrik, and the episode number is 20, which is DTV's regular talk show. We are here to connect communities with the leader, and this is an election month, and you can say election time, and this Buffalo is at crossroad, and this year mayoral election will help shape the future in our city. Today in our studio, we are going to welcome Mr. James Gardner, who is the Republican and Conservative candidate for Buffalo Mayor. As I said, election time. Mr. James Gardner is here, the Republican and Conservative Party candidate for Buffalo Mayor. Mr. Gardner, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
So, should I smile or should I be serious to ask you a question?
I always smile. You always have to smile.
Okay.
That's how I live my life. You got to have a smile.
Okay. So, we have a series of questions.
Sure.
And I believe we'll serve our community, as you said. And now the question is, the first one is, Mr. Gardner, you have been involved with Buffalo community, and especially for Bangladeshi community and the South Asian community for several years. Could you share some of the initiatives you have supported and how you plan to strengthen those relationships?
So, first, I've lived in Buffalo for 40 years. And I've seen, over those 40 years, I've seen a remarkable transformation in the past 10 years on the east side of Buffalo. The down Bailey, Broadway, Genesee, neighborhoods that when I was a kid were completely either empty or very, very dangerous. People didn't want to invest there at all. And the past 10 years, the transformation in those communities has been the result of the Muslim community, whether it's the Yemeni community or the Iraqi community or the Bangladeshi community, that have moved to Buffalo and have invested their money and their time into those neighborhoods to make them look much better than they were when I was a child. They bought, your community and the Southeast Asian community have bought many of the homes that were problems, that were in poor condition, and you've bought them, you've fixed them up, and now you have families living in them. You've brought a vibrancy to the city of Buffalo that was lacking. And in my working with the Muslim community on the east side of Buffalo, what I've seen is you've made those efforts without any help from City Hall. Government hasn't helped you at all to accomplish all the things that you have accomplished. You've done it on your own. You've bought businesses on your own. You bought the houses on your own. There have been no government programs that have been assisting you in any way. And it's worked. You've transformed entire sections of the city. And my pledge is I want to work with your community to build off of the things that your community has already done to improve Bailey, Broadway, Sycamore, Genesee. I want to help you take it to the next level. I want to partner with your community so that we're building housing that your community wants to live in. I want to make sure that you know, whether it's your children, when they move back to Buffalo or come to Buffalo, I want to make sure that they have a house that they can afford to buy, that it's in good condition, that it's safe for their children to live there, and that when your grandchildren grow up, they want to live in Buffalo too. And the way we do that, I think, is one, making sure that we are investing in public safety. The number one issue in this election, and the number one issue that I care about, is public safety. We have to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe. That if you're a business owner, you see a police officer. That police officer walks by your business every day. You get to know that police officer, and that police officer gets to know you. That's how you build trust in a community. It's also how you prevent crime rather than just try to solve it. Because if you're a business owner and you know a police officer and you know that there's going to be trouble, you can call that police officer and say, you already have a relationship. And that police officer can help address that issue. So the fundamental thing that we're going to do when I get elected to help the Bangladeshi community, to help the wider Muslim community, is to make sure that the community is safe. We're going to make sure that we have the public safety resources in the community. You're going to see them. They're going to be there to help, both in terms of just their everyday presence, but when you call them, they're going to answer. That sense of public safety is going to help tremendously in parts of the city where right now public safety it's a problem. Crime is a problem.
So look like you have a plan for connecting leader and organization.
Absolutely, and that is how this has to work. There has to be City Hall, as mayor, I want to work with every business leader. I want to work with everybody who owns a small business. That's the only way we're going to create jobs in Buffalo. That's the only way we're going to build Broadway. It's the only way we're going to build Bailey, where you start building commercial districts where people have more jobs, more opportunity, more wealth. That's how we lift Buffalo out of the poverty that we see, and that the Bangladeshi and wider Muslim community has done such a good job of trying to cure by investing in these neighborhoods.
Okay, so look like you already, answer my question ahead of my.
Hey, when I've gone to the Bangladeshi community and the Muslim community and the East Side community, or the community in North Buffalo, or the community in South Buffalo, or the West Side of Buffalo, everybody says the same thing.
So look like you have already a plan for safety issue in Buffalo. You understand what is the safety issue here. And what is actually, do you have any specific plan other than connecting with the police officers?
Sure. So right now, first of all, my background is in public safety. I spent 7 years as a prosecutor, so I worked very closely with the Buffalo Police Department. 7 years and then immediately after that, I worked for a judge for another 7 years that handled criminal matters. So for 14 years, I've done criminal justice work. I've done public safety work. And the issues that are affecting the city of Buffalo are what we call quality of life crimes. No doubt there are still murders, there's still violent crime, and we have to do everything we can to address that and to stop it. But we're also seeing levels of crime in terms of car thefts, of stealing from stores, drug dealing on the streets, prostitution along Broadway. These are the types of quality of life problems that keep people from these neighborhoods, keeps businesses from opening, and it makes it more likely that the people who live here will one day move. They'll move to Amherst, or they'll move to Cheektowaga, or they'll move to West Seneca. They'll leave Buffalo because they don't see any change here. They see this sort of criminal activity that is around their neighborhood, and they don't want it, so they move away from it. And the first thing we need to do, as I say, it's the visibility issue. We should have police officers, what we call walking the beat, walking along commercial districts. Because If criminals see police officers, they're not going to commit crimes. And residents and business owners, when they see police officers, they're going to feel safer. So continuing what we call community policing, getting officers on the street, interacting with business owners, interacting with residents, that's step one. Step two is we have a lot of, right now, a lot of the laws that have been passed in New York State and supported by Sean Ryan, the guy that I'm running against, they've made life easier for criminals.
Is there any examples of that?
Absolutely, something called bail reform. So what bail reform did was, if you stole something from a store, the police can no longer arrest you for it. They give you an appearance ticket. They give you what is equivalent of a parking ticket. So nothing stops you from going right to another store and stealing again. And you have seen a rise in this what we call misdemeanor or low-level crime, because the people who are committing it know that they won't be held accountable. They're not going to jail. They're getting a parking ticket. And then on top of it, if they're under the age of 18, 19,
Nothing.
their case doesn't get heard in a criminal court. It gets heard in family court. Right? So that's just another way that criminal activity, there's no accountability for it. There's no punishment. And just like your kids, if you don't punish your kids when they misbehave, what's going to stop them from misbehaving?
So what is your plan alternative?
So when I get elected, I'm going to advocate at the top of my lungs to our leadership in Albany that we need to change these laws. These laws are doing nothing to make our communities safer. They're making our communities more dangerous. It's making it harder to run a business, and it's making it harder to live here. So that's the second thing that I'm going to do. The third thing, when it comes to the type of theft crime, residential burglaries, commercial burglaries, oftentimes these criminal acts involve the region. It's not just crime that happens in Buffalo stays in Buffalo. Oftentimes, the things that get stolen in Buffalo get sold in Cheektowaga, or the car that gets stolen in Cheektowaga gets driven into the city of Buffalo. What we need to do is we need to cooperate regionally in Erie County, the surrounding areas around Buffalo, to make sure that we're solving those crimes as quickly as possible. And the last thing we're going to do is right now, this is going to make you laugh, but right now when a Buffalo police officer is behind a car that they know is stolen, so they're driving along and they see a stolen car in front of them, the Buffalo police officer is not allowed to chase that car.
Okay.
I can't think, so right now, in public safety in the city of Buffalo, you can't chase a criminal, and even if you catch the criminal, you can't keep that criminal in jail. That's the policies of the person that I'm running against. And that's why we're starting to see the increase in the criminal activity that we're experiencing. And if we don't change it, it's only going to get worse. And what I want to do is I want to change it. I want to make this city safer. Safer for you, safer for your family, safer for your business. Because if we do that, it makes it more likely that people are going to invest in the city of Buffalo. And that's ultimately what I want, because I want to keep all the people, all the new immigrants who come to the United States, regardless of where they come from. We want to be welcoming to them. We want to make sure that they have a place in our community. And we want to make sure that they don't leave and go to Amherst. We want to keep them in Buffalo. So we have to change public safety in order to make sure that people...
What type of change you are thinking? Like, for an example, they are ruling this area for around 40 years.
They've ruled this city. One party rule the Democratic Party has run Buffalo, New York for 60 years. 60 years, one party. In my life, I'm 40 years old. I've only known 3 mayors, 3 people in 40 years. There's been no change. And the person I'm running against is the hand-picked guy, the hand-picked candidate of the same party machine that's given us 60 years of this. And that's why the east side of Buffalo looks the way it looks. That's why Buffalo used to be one of the richest cities in America. In 60 years, we've lost half of our population, and we're now the third poorest in America. That's what happens when you have one-party rule. And my message is, they've had 60 years. Give me 4. Give me 4 years to do the things that I know I can do, that I say I'm going to do. And if I don't do them, vote me out. Get rid of me. Vote against me in 4 years. Hold me accountable. But if you want change in your neighborhood, and you want change on your streets, you have to change the way you vote. And you have to vote. That's the message.
Okay, so, I mean, coming back to the business, like the minority business, they're actually struggling.
Yeah.
So do you have any plan for them?
All businesses in New York are struggling.
Okay.
Whether you're a minority, whether you are a restaurant owner in downtown on Delaware Avenue, or you own a convenience store on Sycamore, it's a struggle right now. Doing business in New York is a struggle because the taxes are high, the requirements are heavy in terms of insurance costs and all of the other things that come into unemployment benefits, all of these things that New York State requires, and some of them are important, but it makes doing business in Buffalo and New York State very, very difficult. And when you go and try to start a business in Buffalo, it's a lot of red tape. If you go down to City Hall to try to start a business, you've got to go to 4 different floors in City Hall. You got to go to someplace entirely. You want to pull a permit, you got to go to 2 places and then another place to pay. We have to simplify it. We have to cut the red tape. We have to make it easier for people to do business here. We have to work with the business community, not against them, because we need businesses. We need investment, because that's the only way we're going to
create the jobs,
and stop being the poorest city in America. Right? And I know a lot of people in the Muslim community, in the Bangladeshi community, and in the wider community in Buffalo, they own rental properties. And what's happening to landlords in the city of Buffalo is ridiculous. We have, right now we only have 1 housing court judge. And he's a good guy. He's a good judge. I know him. I want to give him help. We should have at least 2 judges. One that can hear the housing court fines if they need to be, and the other is we need somebody who can hear landlord-tenant, somebody who can hear evictions. We need to speed these processes along. And the other thing is, right now, the city of Buffalo has a huge budget deficit. And one of the reasons we have a huge budget deficit is because the city isn't enforcing any of the fines that they impose. So you're a responsible landlord. You're doing everything that you can to keep your property in good condition. And then you got somebody across the street who doesn't do anything to keep their property in good shape. And it's falling apart, or they've abandoned it altogether, and they've got people squatting in it or drug dealers in it. It only takes 1 house to ruin a neighborhood. And right now the city of Buffalo isn't using any of the tools available to them to get that house into the hands of a more responsible landowner. And they're not doing anything to make sure that they're enforcing the fines and the building code against those houses that are abandoned.
So you mean that good landlord is having more problems?
Good landlords are getting punished, because if you're trying to keep your property up and you're trying to make it a good place for your tenants, as most landlords are. Most landlords, they don't want problems. They want the houses to be in good shape, so they don't get the phone call in the middle of the night that says, there's a leak, right? So most landlords are doing the right thing, but they're not getting any help because, one, we don't have enough. The cases are taking far too long to be heard. So you're getting people who aren't paying you rent in there for a year, 18 months without being able to evict them. You're also, if you're a good landlord, you're suffering because there might be houses on your block that are in bad condition and are attracting criminals or drug dealers, and that's making it harder for you to get tenants. And then it could get worse because the guy I'm running against has supported a legislation that basically says that if you own an apartment building, before you're allowed to sell it, before you can go and you say you want to sell that building, you have to offer it to the tenants first. You have to offer it to the people who live there before you can offer it to anyone else. And then if they say no, you have to offer it to a neighborhood housing nonprofit. So he's in favor of making it harder for you not only to be a landlord, but even if you want to stop being a landlord, he's making it difficult. We cannot allow it. We cannot allow it, as I said, the only way we can stop this type of legislation, the only way we stop these bad ideas is to start changing the way we vote.
So, I mean, I'm here in 2016 and found that housing affordability was beautiful that
Right.
time. Yeah. So nowadays it's feel like very challenging for the working, especially I'm talking about the true working families.
That's right.
So
What are we going to do to fix it?
Yeah.
So here's what's changed since 2016, is that the city of Buffalo is broke. They got a whole bunch of money after COVID, and they've been going broke for years, but they got a lifeline from a bunch of federal money that the federal government gave them. But the reason they're broke is because their expenses have gone through the roof. So let me give you some statistics. The last 2 years, and everybody knows it in city government. The mayor knew it, common council members knew it, everybody knew they were going to have a budget problem. Everybody knew they were running out of money because their expenses were going up and up. The last 2 years, their expenses went up 30%. Within that time period, the last 2 calendar years, personnel costs have gone up 16%. So they know they're going to go broke. They're continuing to spend more money than they spent the year before, and they're hiring more people than they hired before. That's how they've managed your money. And what have they done to get themselves out of it? Not making any cuts in the government. They're not trying to change to lower their costs. They're asking you to pay more in taxes. They want you to pay more in taxes. They want you to pay for their mistakes. And what I have said from the very beginning,
everything on us,
is you cannot, the numbers now, the deficit is so big, you cannot tax your way out of it. You cannot raise taxes enough to close the budget deficit. What you have to do is you have to start cutting your expenses, and you have to develop new forms of revenue outside of taxes, because what will happen is if I continue to raise taxes on you, eventually you'll get to the point where you're saying, what used to be a reasonable place to own property has gotten too expensive. I'm getting nothing for it. I'm going to sell. And you're going to have to offer that property to the tenants before you're able to sell it.
Okay.
But you're going to get out of it. My idea is the last thing we need to do is raise taxes, because if your taxes are going up, it will discourage investors, people who own property such as yourself, from buying here, from investing in Buffalo. It's one of the few advantages that Buffalo has, is that it's still reasonably cheap.
Yeah.
So we don't want to get rid of that by raising taxes.
Okay, so I got your point. So the next thing is we have a problem in healthcare, and I think we have a problem with youth development. So we have less time in the studio. So I'm just asking you two questions.
Sure.
So you understand what?
Yeah. Yes. The mayor's office can't do much in terms of healthcare, because it's a state issue, it's a federal issue. We're going to do what we can to make sure that everybody gets. I think it's a law. It's a law in New York that says you got to have health insurance, and that is for New York State and the federal government to continue to get into this fight about who pays how much and what plan you get, and so on and so forth. But you mentioned something about youth development, and this is something that I think is very important. Is in the city of Buffalo, one of the big reasons why people leave the city of Buffalo is because of schools. If parents don't feel that the school that they're sending their children to is safe or that it's good, they'll leave the city of Buffalo. They'll go to Williamsville, they'll go to Cheektowaga, they'll go to West Seneca, they'll go to Orchard Park, where they think that there's a better school district. We need, and the Buffalo Public Schools, they have a very challenging job. It's a lot of kids that they're in charge of, and it's a challenging population in the sense that a lot of them come from families in extreme poverty. However, we have to do better as a city to make sure that you as a parent have educational options for your child. Whether that's a high-performing Buffalo Public School, or a charter school, or a religious school, or a trade school, the Buffalo Public School System needs to continue to work toward, and I will work with the Buffalo Public School System to make sure that we get there. Because as mayor, it's very important for me to know that members of this community, whether they're, they live in North Buffalo, they're Irish Catholic, or they're Italian, or they're Bangladeshi, or that they're African American, that the Buffalo Public School System does everything they can do to welcome everybody from those communities.
Yeah, so that's my next question.
Yes.
Actually, we want Buffalo
Mm-hmm.
as a diverse and a cherishful community, cherishful place to live.
Yes.
So I believe the mayor has a big role to do that, to make a city like we want to live there.
Right. That's exactly my whole purpose in getting in this race, is to make this city a better place to live for everybody. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is making sure that City Hall and city government begins to reflect the people who live here. We want to make sure that members of the African American community, members of the Bangladeshi community, members of the Yemeni community, members of continue to have members of the Italian and Irish community are represented in City Hall. Making sure that we have Bangladeshi members of the Common Council, making sure that we have Bangladeshi or Muslim members of the Buffalo Police Department and the Buffalo Fire Department and the Permits and Inspections Department. That's how we start making this. It will break down the sort of adversary relationship that exists in a lot of communities, because there's a lack of cultural understanding. And if you start bringing in members of different communities into city government, they're going to bring with them that cultural knowledge, and it's going to make the delivery of city services that much more efficient and that much more effective. And that's what we want. Buffalo has always been diverse. We've always been a city of immigrants, whether the Irish or the Polish or the German or the Italians or the members of the African American community. Everybody's always come to Buffalo. And it's always been a welcoming place for immigrants. And that's something that we have to continue to do and continue to be for immigrants who are coming here today.
Okay, and now the last question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are coming in Buffalo for various reasons. So whatever the reason, the people are coming is mostly I'm saying about the new immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
So city has so many type of program, like benefit,
Mm-hmm.
so many types,
Right.
and they don't know.
Right.
So what is actually your policy to include them in this program?
Well, that's exactly what I mean in saying that we need to make sure that City Hall, that city government, reflects the community it serves. Because if you're a new immigrant from Somalia or Bangladesh or Iraq, and you have somebody who, when you go down to City Hall, that looks like you, came from your culture, speaks your language, you're going to have a much better experience in working with City Hall to get access to the programs that you need. But let me be very clear. My success as mayor isn't about making sure that we get government programs to the people who need it. That is certainly part of it. But what I want to make sure those new immigrants, regardless of where they come from, have a job, have a place to live, where they can grow their family and achieve the American dream. that they can earn a living. Nobody wants to come to the United States and just be the beneficiary of government programs.
No,
you want to be able to come here and reach for the American dream, become wealthy, make sure your kids go to the best schools, make sure that they are more successful than you are. Those are the things that drive that's why people come to this country. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that yes, we're there to help people when they first get here and get them on their feet and get them in stable housing and stable jobs, but we also want to make sure that this is a place where they can grow.
Yeah, I actually, triggering this point, benefit means like to make it better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Better something.
Yes.
Not like benefiting from the government program.
That's it. That's it. And in my experience, and you can see it, on the east side of Buffalo, among the Bangladeshi and wider Muslim community, everyone's working.
Like, do you have any program for, say, for the senior citizen, or somebody is new to have a program for jobs? I mean, make a better job skill, something like that.
Sure. And the government is generally, the way I look at this is the government usually the government itself isn't a great tool to provide that kind of training. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that the government can support those nonprofits,
Okay.
those agencies that provide those services. Because there are lots of organizations around Buffalo that want to do exactly what you're describing.
Okay.
And rather than government do it, I want to partner with those organizations to make sure that those people will always have an opportunity to better themselves regardless of how old they are. We'd love it if, and it goes to even community centers, right? Making sure that people have a place to go.
Exactly.
and visit with neighbors.
Exactly.
And play a game, watch a movie, the kids can play. That's what people expect from their city government. That's something that I can see absolutely we're going to invest in and make a priority. But to run actual physical programs becomes a challenge because the city, we need to, one, the city's broke, and two, there are already people doing that work. We just need to support those people to make sure that more people are taking advantage of it.
Anyway, thank you very much to join here today. And do you have anything to say to Bangladeshi community at the end of, because your election time?
Sure. And today, today's the first day of early voting, and it is so important that everybody who's registered to vote take the time to vote. That is the only way that members of Buffalo, residents in Buffalo, whether you're members of the Bangladeshi community or any other community, that's the only way you're going to get change. That's the only way you're going to see improvements in your neighborhood, is if occasionally you have to vote for something else. You have to vote for the change you want to see. And that's what this election is. Give me 4 years to do what it is that I say I'm going to do. Give me 4 years to make sure that I pursue the change that you want to see in your community. And if I don't do it, if I don't succeed, if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, vote me out in 4 years. But you have to be willing to vote differently and to make sure you get to the polls to vote in order to see the change you want to see in your community.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, have a nice one.
Yeah.